Slight head tilt down at start, then up to camera. I am 104 years old, and I have a confession that the priest at my sister's funeral never let me make. When they lowered Margaret's casket into the Tennessee dirt on a cold October morning in 1987, I was 65 years old, and I was the only person at that graveside who was not crying. My nieces thought I was in shock. My pastor thought I was being strong. My own daughter Ruth leaned over and whispered, "It's okay to let it out, Mama." I did not let it out because there was nothing to let out. My sister Margaret has spent 47 years making my life a quiet hell. She had lied to our parents about me when we were children. She had stolen money from my purse when we were teenagers and let me get whipped for it. She had told my fiancé in 1944 that I had been with another man, hoping he would leave me. He almost did. And in August of 1971, she slept with my husband, Earl, in a motel room outside Nashville. He confessed it to me on a Wednesday. She never confessed at all. She came to my kitchen the following Sunday and ate my cornbread and asked me if I'd lost weight. I forgave her. The pastor told me to. The Bible told me to. The women's circle at church told me to. So I forgave her in 1971, and again in 1975. And again in 1982, when she said something cruel about Ruth at Christmas dinner. I forgave her 3 times. And every time I forgave her, she got bigger inside my head. Looking down briefly, then slowly look up to camera. So when they buried her in 1987, I stood at that grave with frost on my coat and a question in my mouth I had been afraid to ask for 60 years. What if forgiveness was the wrong answer? Tonight, before I go, I am going to tell you something that no priest, no therapist, and no self-help book in the world will tell you. And it begins with a Black woman who came to clean my floors in 1962. End of section. Pace picks up slightly, voice firmer now, preacher-like authority, more energy and eyes, direct address. But before I tell you about Della, I need you to understand the lie. Because if you do not see the lie, you will not understand why what she said to me changed everything. Eyes hard on camera. They have been telling you your whole life that forgiveness will set you free. Pace quickens, listing, mounting frustration. Your priest told you. Your mother told you. The therapist your insurance pays for tells you. The book at the airport with the soft cover and the gold lettering tells you. The woman with the white teeth on the morning television tells you. Every single day at 10 in the morning. Forgive. Let it go. Free yourself. Do you know what a forgiveness retreat costs in this country today? My granddaughter showed me on her little screen. $3,000 for 3 days. To be told something a child could tell you. It is a $30 billion industry, child. Books, apps, retreats, therapists, podcasts. They are selling you a feeling, and the feeling does not work, and so you go back and buy more of it. I know it does not work because I bought it for 40 years. I forgave Margaret 3 times, and every single time I forgave her, I made room for her inside me. I said, "The door is open. Come on in. We will work this out. And every time, she walked right in and rearranged my furniture. Here is the part nobody will say out loud. Forgiveness, the way they sell it to you, is a transaction where you do all the paying. The other person doesn't have to apologize. They don't have to change. They don't even have to be sorry. You just absorb what they did, quietly, like a sponge. And then they tell you that you'll feel lighter. You do not feel lighter. You feel emptied. There is a difference. I went to my sister's funeral having forgiven her 3 times, and I felt heavier than the casket they lowered into the ground. Eyes lift, distant memory look. But that morning, standing on the frozen grass, I remembered a sentence Della had said to me 25 years earlier in my kitchen. And the moment I remembered it, something in me began to break open. Hold of section. Softer, warmer voice. This is a memory, a sacred section. Eyes slightly distant, looking back. Tender tone. Della came to my house every Tuesday from 1958 to 1971. She was a Black woman from Birmingham, Alabama, and she was 54 years old when she first walked through my door. I was 36. I had 2 small children, a husband who traveled, and a sister who had already begun to ruin small parts of my life. I did not know yet that she would ruin large ones. Della and I did not speak much in the early years. The South in 1958 was not a place where a white woman and a Black woman sat at the same table. But she would hum while she worked, and one Tuesday I asked her what the song was, and she said it was something her mother used to sing in a field in Alabama. And that was the first real conversation we ever had. I learned, slowly, that Della had lost a son. His name was Thomas. He was 19 years old. In 1947, in a town outside Selma, 2 white men beat him to death over a misunderstanding about a bicycle. Neither man ever spent a day in jail. Della and her husband had moved to Tennessee 3 years later because she could no longer drive past the road where it happened. In 1962, on a Tuesday in May, I asked Della something I had no business asking. I asked her, very quietly, "How do you forgive a man like that?" Della stopped mopping. She put both hands on the top of the mop handle, and she looked at me for a long time. Long enough that I almost took the question back. Then she said, "Honey, I don't forgive him. I refuse him. There's a difference." I did not understand. I asked her what she meant. She said, "Forgiving him means I make peace with what he did. I will never make peace with what he did. Refusing him means I will not let him right the rest of my life. He took my boy. He does not get my soul too. So every morning when I wake up, I refuse him. And every morning, I get my life back." End of section. I did not understand Della that day. I was 36 and full of borrowed wisdom from people who had never lost anything that mattered. I thanked her. I made her coffee. I went on with my life. I forgave Margaret in 1971 anyway, the way I had been taught. I forgave her again in 1975. I forgave her in 1982. And on the morning of October 19th, 1987, I stood at my sister's grave with frost in my hair, and Della's words came back to me like a key turning in a lock that had been rusted shut for 25 years. I did not cry at the funeral. I went home. I made a cup of black coffee. I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and a blue pen. And I wrote 23 names, eyes intense, slowly listing. Each name is a wound. Margaret was first, but she was not alone. There was Earl, my husband, who had cheated and lied and been forgiven 3 times. There was a woman named Beth who had stolen 4 years of friendship and $1,000. There was a business partner who had cheated me on a contract in 1964. There was the neighbor who had told my pastor a lie about my son in 1979. 23 names. 40 years of small wounds and large ones. Next to each name, I wrote one sentence. Not a feeling, a fact. Margaret slept with Earl on August 3rd, 1971. Beth took the money on April 12th, 1968. And then I did what Della had taught me, 25 years too late. I refused them, out loud, in my own kitchen, alone. Margaret, I refuse you. You do not get my next 20 years. You had enough. Earl, I refuse you. You do not get my anger anymore. I am taking it back. 23 names. It took me almost 3 hours. Voice quiet, almost surprised, reflective. When I was finished, I did not feel forgiven. I did not feel peaceful. I felt something that was harder to describe and infinitely more useful. Voice slow, savoring each word. I felt empty. I felt clean. I felt like a house the morning after the trash is taken out. End of section. Wisdom mode, looking directly at camera throughout, voice tired but resolute. This is the closing testimony. I am 104 years old. Every doctor I have ever had expected me to die before I did. I had a doctor in 1992 who told my daughter to start preparing for the end. He died in 2003. I had a doctor in 2010 who told me my heart could not last another year. He retired in 2017 and died of a stroke the following spring. I have outlived 4 cardiologists, 2 pastors, and almost everyone who ever told me to forgive. I am not telling you that refusal is why I am still alive. I am not a fool. Genes and luck and clean water did most of the work. But I will tell you this, forgiveness, the way they sold it to me, made me carry other people's weight for 40 years. Refusal made me put it down. And a woman who is not carrying 23 other people through her life has more strength left to live her own. Della died in 1979. She was 89. sharp as a knife until the last week. She refused the man who killed her boy every morning of those 42 years, and she lived a life that was full of music and grandchildren and Tuesday mornings in my kitchen. The men who told her to forgive, the preachers, the well-meaning white women, the social workers, most of them were dead by 60. Lean slightly forward, direct address, most urgent moment of the video. I want you to hear me. I am not telling you to hate. Refusal is not hatred. Hatred is fire that burns down your own house. Refusal is closing the door and turning the lock. If somebody has hurt you, and you have been told to forgive, and every time you try, your stomach turns and your sleep gets thin, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not failing at forgiveness. You are recognizing that forgiveness is not what you need. You need to name what they did. You need to say it out loud. And you need to refuse them every morning until they are no longer a tenant in your mind. You have months left, maybe weeks. I am not afraid. Because I am not carrying anyone into that grave but myself. The final line, and that is the truth they have been hiding from you. Then, slow blink, end.